Hi Stitchy friends, my name is Barb. I am Stitch Brat here on Flosstube on YouTube, and that is also my handle over on Instagram if you want to visit me there. I'm pretty active on Instagram and I post several times a week, and because I only generally make videos once a month or even less, my current progress or my most up-to-date progress is usually posted on Instagram as opposed to my floss tubes, which are a little bit behind. Today is Sunday, October 21st, 2025, and this is Flosstube number 21. I'm on my sun porch again, although you can probably see it's not very sunny. It's actually kind of cool out here too, but I love filming out here because of the natural light, and I don't have to set up my ring light, and it just, the colors of the fabrics come out true, and it's just kind of easy. So until we get some really cold weather, I'm gonna try to film out here at least once more. I decided to just, I spend an inordinate amount of time messing with my microphone before every filming because I like it actually, the cord to be inside my shirt so it doesn't show, but it's on a magnet, so like it ends up falling off and stuff. So today I just decided, okay, would it be that horrible if my microphone cord shows? So if it bothers you horribly, please let me know, but otherwise I might just do this the easy way from now on and have my microphone cord show. Okay, so what I've got mostly for you today is my September stitching. I know it's really the middle of October. I was actually going to film last week, but I ended up having kind of a head cold and I was sneezing and I had a runny nose, and it just didn't seem like a great situation to be making a video in. So I just decided to wait. But if I include stuff I've been working on in October, I'll just have way too much stuff. So I'm kind of sticking to stuff from my last video through maybe the end of September or right at the beginning of October. And then other stuff's just going to have to wait. Some of it's the same, of course. So I have maybe 13 or 14 whips, I think, that I worked on in September. Plus, I have a big finish. And even, I mean, it's big. So I guess we'll get right to it. I guess I should start with the finish. That seems like the thing to do. So my finish is of a Carolyn Manning piece, a shooting star design, and this is Beachcomber. Isn't this beautiful? I'm really proud of this. I'll come in closer and even closer so you can see. You know, the shooting stars are full coverage, and although they're not like huge or anything, I think they're stitch-wise, they're 191 by 191. So, you know, they take a while to do, and I usually have a lot of them going at the same time. So I don't work on just one and then go to the next one. So this was stitched on a 32 count blue, I think it's just blue Lugana by Zweigart, and I stitched it 2/2 with just the called for colors. And I just think it is absolutely beautiful. I just love it. So that is my big finish, and I had actually hoped to have, 2 finishes in October, but best laid plans, right? That didn't work out. So now we'll just get to my whips and see if we can get through these. Okay, so I usually show my seasons, what I'm calling my seasons project first, and this is my my project based on Carolyn Manning designs, her seasonal what they are is small shooting star designs. There's 4 sets of 4 representing the seasons, and then I'm taking, each of the blocks is, I think, 77 by 77, and then they're full coverage, but they're just like a mini version of what you saw in Beachcomber. And then all 4 blocks use the same color palette, but they're different blocks. So I'm stitching all of them together on the same piece of fabric, but I'm arranging them like a quilt. So they're kind of interspersed, and then, you know, like they'd be, I don't know, arranged kind of like a quilt. So that always takes a lot of explaining on that. Probably more than it's worth, right? Okay, so here's what she looks like so far. Here's the whole thing. Now, the one that I finished in September is that bottom block that's like the paler colors. That's the spring block. That's the 3rd spring block. And I'll come in and show that to you. So I finished that in September. And then right next to it is the 3rd summer block, and that I'm working on right now, and I think you can see it's actually almost finished. I'm ahead this month, and that's great. So I just have, I think, 1 more of the little blocks to do, and then some white to finish, and then I can start on my next autumn block. But here's what the whole thing looks like. And I'm really happy with how this is turning out. My plan is to stitch all of them, all 4 of each design, but then that would make a square, which is not as visually pleasing. So what I did was allow enough fabric so that I can make a 5th row of the designs if I want to. So I'm going to leave that decision till after I finish the 16, and then I'll see how it looks. And if I don't know. I'm going to bring this closer to me, sorry. And if I like how it looks with square, maybe I'll just leave it square. Usually I don't love, well, that's not true. Some square designs are fine, but for something like that that's supposed to be, it's supposed to look more like a quilt. To me, it should be rectangular, but we'll see when I get there. Also, I might get sick of stitching them. It's already been a long project, and it's going to take into next year, obviously. Somebody asked me on Instagram, or a couple people maybe, what I'm going to do with that when I'm done with it. And the funny thing is, I hadn't even thought about it. I'm not just a process stitcher where I just stitch for the love of stitching. I do like to finish things, but I don't usually start things thinking, having something in mind of how it's going to be finished or how it's going to look on my wall or something like that. I just start things because I like them, and then usually somewhere along the way I'll have an idea of what I want to do with it. But frankly, that question stumped me on that, because it's going to be a really big thing. I don't know if I want to just like frame it and put it up on the wall, but if I didn't just frame it and put it up on the wall, I don't know what I would do with it. So it's a long-term project, and it's taken a lot of work, so I probably would like to do something with it eventually. So if you have any ideas about something I could do with a really big project like that, I'd appreciate hearing them. By the way, that is stitched, I'm stitching that on 18 count Aida in a color called Natural. It's kind of a beigey, but it's more beigey than cream, but it's not like a taupe. It's just, I don't know, natural. It really is a natural color. And I'm using 2 strands of floss over 1 Aida square. I'm using all the called for colors on each of the each of the sets of charts. And I hope you won't mind if I have my coffee. For one thing, it's cold out here, well, cool out here. And for another, my throat gets dry when I talk. So I'll try to swallow as quietly as I can. Okay. I usually show this one set. Well, I'm going to start showing this one second. I guess I've only showed it once. So last month, I think I showed I mentioned that I started the garden trellis stitch along that Carolyn Manning is doing. I think it started like in August or something, and she's releasing a block a month, but the blocks are pretty big, and even though I really love this, like I just decided if I was going to do it, there was no way I could do a block a month. So my plan was to do a block every 2 months, which I still think is doable, except that I got behind on this first block for a variety of reasons. And it was supposed to be finished by the end of September. And here it is the middle of October, and I'm still not quite done with it. I'll show it to you. So what I decided to do for the first block is give myself, give myself until the end of October to finish the first block, and then I'm going to go back to my 2 blocks, or 2 months per block plan. Okay, so this is the first block of I'll pop it up here. This is the first block of the garden trellis, and then all the blocks use the same colors, but each one is a different pattern, and each one is kind of an amalgam of, if you know Carolyn Manning, she has sort of different styles of patterns. There's the shooting star designs that look like quilts. She has some others that are based on different quilt designs. She has ones that are called like garden series that feature a lot of small flowers and things. A bunch of different ones. So the garden trellis is kind of like the designs put all those things together and kind of toss them up in a crazy way. So all of the designs, the ones I've seen so far, look like they're going to be really pretty. So let me see if I can fold this in a way that I can show it to you. I'm kind of embarrassed about not having this first block done. But, okay, so these blocks are a little bit bigger. I think they're 109 by 109. And although they're not full coverage, they're pretty, the stitching is pretty fussy because you have to change colors a lot. So here's where I am on the first block. So as you can see, I am almost done with it. I just have a few little areas there on that side to fill in. And then there's just a small amount of back stitching around the little motifs with the yellow centers and that look like purple flowers. There's stitching around the green around those so it looks like leaves. And then that will be done. So I think it's beautiful. I just love it. So this is on an 18 count Aida, and this is hand dyed by Fiber on a Whim, and the color is called Celestine, Celestine. And I think this is coming out absolutely true, but it is a pale, pale purple. And I think what I said on Instagram was, if fairies were real, this would be the color of their wings. And I realize how corny that sounds, but honestly, like that's what when I first saw this, like I was like, oh, like it's beautiful, because I ordered it, so I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. That's what I feel like. I mean, of course, fairies' wings would be somewhat transparent, but this would be the color of their wings. It's just that beautiful. I just love that fabric. So that's my plan for going forward on that, is I'm going to try to do one block every 2 months, but give myself a little bit of grace, because the blocks they're taking longer than I mean, the stitching on those is taking longer than I thought, just because of all the color changes and stuff. Okay, I don't want to do that one next. Okay. Okay, my next WIP is another Carolyn Manning. This one is called Garden Glass, and I will put a picture up here. This is another one of her pattern types. These are her stained glass. This is one of her stained glass designs. There's one with multiple colors that a lot of people are doing on black or dark gray, I think. And this one obviously is different, brighter colors, but here's where I am on this. I'd like to get all those little windows. I'd like to get the black, at least the outlines, the outside outlines done all the way around. And I'm trying to get, my plan here is, I'd like to get the black outline done in that large center square, this large center window, done by about the first week of November, because I am going to a retreat and, you know, filling in those little sections with colors is pretty easy stitching, and it's a great thing to do at a retreat. I mean, it's not completely mindless, but it's easy because whatever you do, there's 4 of them. So if, you know, I'm stitching that little corner triangle and it's purple, I mean, I can stitch all 4 of them purple, and I don't even have to look at the chart. I mean, it's great it's going to be great for a retreat. I don't think I've ever worked on this at a retreat before. So, and if not, I can also stitch the outlines of the black small windows. But that's my plan on this. And right now on Instagram, this is one of my current, what I call fan faves. I don't know, this is just getting for some reason, this is getting a lot of attention when I post it. So thank you for that. If you're someone who commented on that, I really appreciate all the nice comments on that. It is a very eye-catching design. I mean, Carolyn's designs are amazing that way. Okay, what do we have here? Okay. September was Sampler September. A lot of people work on samplers in September. I do have a lot of sampler whips, and I had a number that I had earmarked that I was going to work on in September. And I'm going to say this, I did work on most of them, but a couple of them I only worked on either a couple of days, or I'm still in a stage on them where, like, there's sort of nothing to show. I mean, one of the ones I'm working on is Dutch Beauty, if you're familiar with Dutch Beauty. It's like the biggest sampler in the world, and I'm doing the border first. So I've actually made quite a bit of progress on it in September, but it really doesn't look that different than I think the last time I showed it, because it's still just a green border with some leaves. So I decided, in the interest of time, to leave that out today. But maybe next time when I actually get to something else besides the border, I can show it. But so, and then there was another one or two that I only worked on a couple of times, so I decided to just not show them today and give a better look at the things that I spent more time on. So this is one of them, though, Remember Me. This is by Teresa Kogut, and I think many people are familiar with this pattern. I originally started it when it was a Patreon release. I am a member of Teresa's Patreon, which I would highly recommend. She's super active on Patreon, like more than anybody else that I know of. And she does like special videos and all kinds of things for Patreon members. So, and she has a bunch of different levels, so it can be affordable. But Teresa lives in my home state here in Michigan, and that's one of the reasons I like to support her, because to me, she's a local artist. So, like I said, this is Remember Me, and I finally got that border finished, which I think I did finish that in September, and then I started on the house, as you can see. And actually, really, I don't usually always love doing houses on samplers, especially if they're just like gigantic and sort of boring. But this house has kind of a, oh, I didn't put up a picture. I should put up a picture. Here's the pattern. So you can see the house has kind of an argyle design to it with different browns. And I just think that's really pretty. And it's also more fun to stitch. So I love this piece. I get a little frustrated working on it. I've said this many times, I'll just say it again. I'm stitching this on a 37 count legacy linen in a color called Wild Honey. It's really beautiful. But I'm using 2 strands of floss. And I did that because I usually use 2 strands on 36 count. And this was the first time I'd ever used legacy linen. So my thought process was I used 2 on 36. Why wouldn't I use 2 on 37? And that was not a good thought because legacy linen is really tightly woven. And I mean, I should have done more than I should have tried something other than the border. I should have tried one of those thickly stitched areas to see how it was going to be with 2 strands, because I would have been fine with 1. It's just sometimes a little bit tight stitching with 2. So, but that being said, I love how it looks. I love dense coverage on pieces like that, especially, you know, Teresa designs these patterns with lots and lots of sort of big, fully stitched areas, and you know, they look great when you've got really good coverage on them. So I'm really happy with how that's turning out. It's just going kind of slowly. Okay. This one, I think I have a picture of. I do. Or a paper pattern. Okay. This is ink circles. Cirque de Circles, or something like that. Circus of Circles is what that translates to. And Tracy, or whoever did this, whoever stitched this, did this in kind of a gold variegated floss on black. And I loved the idea of doing it in variegated floss. Mine is not gold though. Got to fold this over because black you can see through. Okay, so here's mine. The camera has trouble focusing on this for some reason. There, oh, there we go. There we go. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. So I am also using a variegated floss. I will come in close, but you're going to lose the actual black of the fabric, so just a little warning there. You know, to me, it also looks like the camera is not focusing, and I don't know why, so I won't leave it there. But the floss I'm using is this. It's a silk, and it's from a California company called Dying for the number cross stitch, and the color of this particular variegation or variegated thread is Earthwalker. And every time I show this piece, I do recommend Dying for cross stitch, and I will recommend it again. They have very, very affordable silk floss if you find, you know, other brands pricey. Theirs is a little bit harder to work with. I will tell you that. I don't know what the right word is. You have to use shorter lengths, and it does sort of, I don't know, shred isn't really the right word, but it does kind of get fuzzy a little bit as you're stitching, but honestly, I think the affordability of it makes up for it, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Like in terms of how it looks when it's stitched up, there is no difference. It looks gorgeous. So if you've been looking for something more affordable, and they sell their silk floss in, I think, 10-yard pieces, or 10-yard, what, skeins or whatever, and then also 25 and 50-yard hanks. So, and that are also really affordable, and obviously the more you buy, the bigger one you buy, you get an even better price break. So I think I did a 50-yard hank for that, and I'm not going to need it all even for that design. I wanted to make sure I had enough. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said I'm stitching that on 16 count black Aida, and I'm using 2 strands of the silk because it's 16 count and it's black, so I wanted decent coverage on that. Obviously, if you had something smaller, silk usually covers pretty well because it doesn't puff up on your fabric the way cotton thread does. It sort of lays down better, so it gives better coverage. You could get by with 1 strand on, higher count fabric than that. But anyway, if you've never checked them out, and you want to check out some silk, that's not a bad idea. Okay, I wasn't sure what this one was. Okay, so my next whip is another shooting star design by Carolyn Manning. This one is called Peacock Topaz, and I'll put a picture here. I just love the colors in this one. It's so gorgeous. I think this one is on the same, oh, no, well, yeah. This is the same blue Lugana, I believe, as Beachcomber. No, this is a little darker. So Beachcomber might be on light blue Lugana, and this might be blue Lugana. But here is Peacock Topaz. And aren't those colors lovely? Purples and fuchsias mixed with those teals, dark greens, light greens. It is just beautiful. So as I said, this is one of many shooting star works in progress that I have going of Carolyn's. So sometimes I think I should just do one at a time and just finish it. But I love them all so much, so it's really fun to work on different ones. And sometimes I find myself, I just start thinking about one or another that I'm working, that's in my pile, and I'll be like, I really want to work on Peacock Topaz or whatever, and you just kind of get it in your head of that's what you want to work on. So it is fun to have different ones going. Okay. This is, I think I have a little, I do, let me get this out here. This is Spell of the Moon, and this is Blackbird Designs, and this is like a pin cushion or something like that is how they have that finished. So this is also in that, I think, Winds of Autumn book, but I actually bought it when it was a standalone, before that, when it was a standalone pattern. And this is what I had intended to be my second finish this month. And, in fact, it should be, but it's not. Because, I don't know, it's not. Well, I can tell you why it's not. Because this pattern looks really simple, but anybody who's actually stitched it will tell you it is so easy to make mistakes when stitching this. There's just there's a lot of counting you have to be really careful on. Okay, here it is though. Here's where I am. Spell of the Moon. So the big moon is done. And the owl is all done. The tree, I think, is done. There might, I think the tree is done. So I have to do the house, and then there's some like leaves and things along the side. And then it'll be done. There really isn't that much to do, but again, it's just, I just didn't get to it. I love that moon. Oh. Okay, this is on 32 count. Okay, I cannot remember the name of the fabric. It's the Picture This Plus fabric that everybody uses for Halloween, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name of it. But you know, it looks like this. All I can think of is dusky, and that's not it. Murky. It's murky. Sorry. brain fog there. Murky. And I'm going to tell you, it is just, I think it looks fantastic on this. I just love it. And this is all the called for are overdyed flosses. I think Classic Colorworks, maybe a mixture. There might be some Wheat Dye Works there. It's only a few colors. And I'm using all the called for. I often don't do the variegated cottons. It depends on the pattern, but for that one, that's what really makes that moon and stuff look so great. So, like, I had to do that. Okay, I'm doing pretty good on time here, I think. Okay, here's another one I worked on for Sampler September. Another sampler I worked on for Sampler September. Oh, I have a picture of this one too. If I can get it out of here. This is Spring Quaker by Leela's Studio. This came out a few years ago. She's now got, I think, all the seasons, including a Christmas one. And I did buy the Christmas one because I love it, the pattern. But you know, they're all the same. They have the Quaker type motifs and then something in the center like that. But the funny thing about this is, maybe not so funny, I hadn't worked on this in a while because I lost it. I'd had this on my list to work on several times, and when I went to find it, it wasn't with, like, I have sort of all my samplers in one spot together, and it wasn't there. And then I thought, well, I haven't worked on it in a while. I'll look in this other place that I have a few things, like maybe somehow it got shoved there, which are, they're things I just don't work on very often. Like, I haven't abandoned them or anything. They're just not maybe currently active whips. Wasn't there either. And then I just finally did a big search in my house. I don't know about you, but I have stuff all over the place. So I did a big search in my house and I finally found it. So this is the first time I've worked on this in quite a long time because it's been lost. So, lost no more. Okay, here we are. Spring Quaker. Okay, this is on 36 count Dirty Teacup by Needle and Flax. And I am going to tell you, this is one of my favorite fabrics of all time. I love Dirty Teacup. I love, 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 love it. In fact, Rachel had, one time she had a sale that was just like kind of a pop-up thing, and she was like, I happen to have all these pieces of these fabrics, like, go get them kind of thing. And I went and I bought a huge piece of Dirty Teacup. Like, I just happened to be the first person there, I guess. And I love this fabric. Like, it's mottled, but not too much. And it's just exactly the right creaminess, beiginess. It is fantastic. Okay, so 36 count, I'm using 2 strands of floss. I am using the DMC alternatives on this. And, you know, on camera, and I noticed this on Instagram too, some of the browns look pretty similar, but in real life, there's enough contrast between them that I'm happy with them. Like one is definitely darker than the other. And I don't have a lot of the other colors in yet too, so that'll help set that off. But I've really enjoyed working on this one, and I'm really glad I found it. So tell me, have you ever lost a whip? Like one that you didn't intend to like abandon or anything? I felt so stupid, but I was glad I finally found it too. Oops. Okay. Oh, excuse me, my nose is itching. That's a floss tube thing, right? Itchy nose. I think it has to do with how much you talk, because you move your lips and it ends up making your nose itch when you talk more than normal. Okay, this next one is another fan favorite on Instagram. This is Act of God by Long Dog Samplers. I'll put a picture in here. This is always one of my most consistent, like when I post this, I get lots of views, people comment, people like it. It just always gets a lot of attention. And partly it's just the combination, I mean, it's a great design. And also the combination of fabric and floss is really, it's pretty eye-catching. So here's where I am on this. I'll just show you the whole thing. I'm sorry that this is see-through. I didn't bring my board down. My son is sleeping upstairs, so I didn't want to get my board. Here's where I am. And I've been mostly working in this area. Okay, so for this, I'll fold it in half. It'll be easier to see. So I've been mostly working in this area on that big motif with the 4 flowers. And I'm getting close to being done with it. I just have that one side to finish of those chevrons and that little middle thing. I don't really have a plan as to how I'm going. I'm not exactly going by pages, although I don't know. I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of going with what moves me. But I'm trying to finish most of motifs as I go. So I want to get that flower motif finished. So that's closer to what the fabric is. This is Vintage Country Mocha. So everybody knows what this fabric is. It's a printed fabric from Zweigart. This is 40 count linen. And I'm stitching one floss strand over 2 threads of linen. And the floss is this lovely floss. Do it like this so you can see it against the... This is from Silks For You, and I'm sorry, I don't do my nails. This is from Silks For You. The number is PR 181. That's the color number if you want to try to find it. It's just beautiful. It's kind of a mixture. Obviously, it's a variegated silk, and it's a mixture of like metals. Like there's like silver and copper and gold, and it's really just, it's absolutely beautiful. And somehow it does absolutely go great with that fabric. So like I said, whenever I post that, it always gets a lot of attention, and I think that's why. It's that combination, and I know other people have mentioned that they've gone to get that floss after seeing this project because it's so pretty stitched up. I just love how that's coming along. Several people on Instagram have asked me, like, how much do I plan, like where the different colors of the variegation are going to go, like on the motifs. And, you know, when I first started it, I said, oh, I'm just going to wing it and like whatever happens, happens. But as I've been stitching it, like you can't really do that. Like you do have to think ahead at least like a little bit, because like sometimes there might be an area where you want, I can't really give an example right now, but two sides to come out looking sort of similar, or maybe for a motif that's an animal, you don't want the very lightest color to be in the animal's head because it won't show up, kind of thing. So I have had to think a little bit and plan, but I'm still trying to wing it as much as possible and just let whatever happens happen. And I'm good with that in general. Okay, my next whip. This, I've done these before, so this is going to be maybe familiar to some of you. This is the Carolyn Manning Rosebuds Smalls. I'll put a picture up here. I did numbers 1 and 2 earlier this year, so now I'm doing number 3. And I finished the other 2 as pin cushions, and that's my plan for this one too. So I'll show you where I am on this. So here's where I am on this. This one I'm stitching on a different fabric than I did the first 2. This is on 36 count. I think this is called Mocha. And this is a Be Stitch Me linen. Really, really pretty. Not too far off of that Dirty Teacup, but it's darker than Dirty Teacup. But it's kind of the same, it has the same type of modeling. So I have a little ways to go on that, but I want to get that one done too. I love her small round designs. I can think of lots of fun finishes for things like that. So that's the plan when that's done. By the way, I'm not a big project bag person, but look at this pretty bag. Somebody made this for me, one of my table mates at a retreat last year, and then I bought this from somebody, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I'd never really known what to do with it because I didn't like it on my scissors, so I ended up putting it on this, and isn't that pretty? I just love that fabric. Okay. Oh, here's my new start for this month. I forgot I had a new start. Okay, this is called Before Coffee, and I'll put a picture here. And this is by Peppermint Purple. I've done a couple Peppermint Purple patterns, boy, that's hard to say, before. And, you know, she does a lot of, well, she does a lot of black work and stuff too, but her cross-stitch design, she does have quite a few that are graphics, you know, words like this. So this really just, I mean, this is me. Nothing makes sense before coffee. So I'm going to show this to you, and then I'll tell you about this fantastic fabric. So here's where I am. I almost have the word nothing done. I just have to finish that G. Okay, so here's half the fabric. And let me show you the whole piece. Okay. Isn't this fantastic? So I'm stitching on this half, and I'm saving, this will just take this half, and I'm saving this half for another design. I just decided this piece would look better on this half. So this is a piece of fabric, a 32 count linen, and this was hand dyed by Kaylee. I believe her business is called The Sewing Shop. She's in Canada, so you're probably familiar with her. And her handle on Instagram and here on Flosstube is Kaylee Tent Stitch. And she's been a vendor. She was a vendor at Stitch North. Well, I think she's been the last couple of years. So, but last year, we have a friend in common, and I wanted to make sure I met Kaylee in person when I went to Stitch North. So the one year the year that I bought that fabric, she was vending, and I think that weekend that I was there, she wasn't actually attending. She was just vending. But I met her, and I sort of didn't expect to, like, I don't know, I wasn't really intending to buy anything. I fell in love with this piece of fabric she had there, but it was such a crazy piece of fabric. I've had it since then, because it was kind of like, what do you do with this piece of white fabric with big navy blue and blue blobs on it that look fantastic, but what pattern is suited to it? And then I saw that pattern and I thought, you know, that would just be great on there. I should say on that, I am gonna substitute, let me put that up again, the picture up again. I'm gonna substitute the blue, I'm gonna probably use a red for that word instead of the blue, just because I think I'd like to have more of a contrast against the blue on that fabric. But I am going to probably audition some blues when I get to that word, and I'll see what looks best with the fabric. So thank you, Kaylee. I just love that fabric. And by the way, that's getting a lot of that gets a lot of comment too when I post that, because people are like, that fabric is like crazy. And if you know Kaylee, she produces, I don't know how she does it. Some of them, like, maybe she paints or something, and others she dyes, but she's got some processes going, because she's got some great fabrics. Okay, so definitely check her out, thesewingshop.ca, I think. Okay, next I have another Carolyn Manning. This is Ribbon Candy, and here's a picture. I am working on this one with my friend Carla, Stitch Me Sane. We have many, many whips that we are working on together. I've probably forgotten to mention some that we're working on already, but this is one. And I think this might be our most recent one that we started together. And we're doing this on different fabrics, so it's kind of fun to see how it's turning out. So this is where mine is. And obviously that's just part of page 1. I'm stitching on a 32 count, I believe this is like a light green Lugana, and I'm stitching 2 over 2. Carla, I believe, is stitching on a red Ada. I don't know what count it is. Knowing her, it's probably 18 or 20 or something like that. Bright red, it looks fantastic. So if you want to see what our 2 pieces look like, juxtaposed right next to each other, check out my Instagram or Carla's, Stitch Me Sane, because we just did a collaboration post where we posted the 2 pictures on the same, together. So you could see the difference, because I thought it was we both thought it was really fun that we were doing, how different they were coming out. The same pattern can look on 2 different fabrics, and I think they both look great, but just really different look. When I first started mine, and then I saw how hers looked on the red, I started rethinking, and I was like, maybe I need to do something brighter, and maybe this green isn't going to work after all. But once I did a few more squares and I got some of the other colors in there, I mean, for me, I really like this. I think I would have liked it on red too, but I just used what I had in my stash, and I'm very pleased with it. Okay, this is my last whip. Well, that didn't take too long. Okay, this was another one I did for Sampler September, another sampler. This is Joan Sands, and this is from Modern Folk Embroidery, so I'll put a picture here. This was a very popular pattern a few years ago when it came out, and a lot of people, because it's dated, like I think December 31st, like a lot of people were stitching it through a certain year, and then they all finished it together on December 31st or something like that. It was really a fun thing, but I didn't do that. I should have. It'd be done. Okay. Here's where I am. I think I worked on some of the alphabet during September. I'll come closer, but you losing the color of the linen. The colors in this are really pretty, although there's a lot of colors for how small the sampler is. And the linen is a color from R&R Reproductions. It's called sheep's straw, and it is really, really beautiful. It has kind of an undertone that's like, it's pinky orangey or something. I don't know, but whatever it is, it picks up shades in this, the carnations on this border, and in real life, it really looks great. So that's one. That was another one I had been thinking I could probably get finished this year, but you know, to finish things, you actually have to work on them more than just like a week. So, okay, so that didn't happen. But anyway, okay, so plans coming up. I have this retreat coming up at the beginning of November, first week in November, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't really have any real big plans. Oh, I mentioned last time I showed a pattern I think that I was thinking about doing for my sister's 50th wedding anniversary. So I thought I would just mention that I've decided against that particular pattern. And somebody in the comments on my last Flosstube said something like show your sister one of the other shooting stars that you've done or Carolyn Mannings that you've done and see what she thinks, or to see if she likes that style. And I thought, you know, that's funny that she said that, because I have actually, my sister doesn't live near me, but I have worked on a couple of my Carolyn Manning shooting stars or broken stars when I was at her house visiting. And I mean, she never seemed particularly enamored of them. Now, I would say her husband did. He was like fascinated when I was doing carrot cake. I remember he even like picked it up and he was like looking at it and everything. But that was enough to make me actually think about that. And I thought, you know, these are like my favorite thing, but maybe she would like something different. So I actually found a different pattern that I think I'm going to make for her. And I will put a picture in here. I cannot remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember who the designer of this chart is. I will scroll it across the bottom because this was impromptu. I hadn't actually planned on showing this. But I bought a couple of different linens, and I'm gonna look at all my flosses against the linens and see which one I like. But I'm not gonna probably get started on that until maybe like the first of the year. It's not super huge. But that's what I think I'm going to do for anniversary. She's a big flower person. She's a big gardener. I think she will like this better. Also, when it's done, I can try to decide between, I can decide between finishing it as a framed piece or possibly even making it into a pillow, which I think she might like more. Her style of decorating and like with what she has on her walls and stuff, she might like a pillow better than just something to put up on her wall. So I'm going to think about that too. So anyway, that's kind of where I am. I don't have any other big plans. I'm just kind of stitching whatever I want and trying to keep up with my ongoing projects. So I guess until we meet again, which hopefully will be in a month or so, remember to just try to slow down and appreciate things and take life and everything else one stitch at a time. Bye, Stitchy friends. See you next month.